is, or any of it, or what bitter is. Muslim children know these things. I'm not trying to be confrontational. It's just that the more I see your videos, your claim of having studied Islam for what it was 20 years eats at me. You didn't know the Quraysh broke Hebediah. That Surah 9 was in response to that. The list goes on. My favorite being you claiming Surah 9 verse 1 through 5 is kill our Kafirs edict, when it clearly says, quote, only the treaty breakers, others excluded. Oh, that's right, you said it was pagans who broke treaty first in Quran 9, 1 through 5, when it sounded really like the only breaking of a treaty was not being Muslim. If I remember correctly, you still haven't explained why persons in the book, Christians and Jews, should be fought until they, quote, feel themselves subdued and pay the tax in Quran 9:29. Dude, if you are going to respond, use reply so that I am sent a message, okay? I don't check your videos often. Okie doke, but I want your comments here. In the open, in the hopes that those Muslims who really know Islam and the Quran can help us out here, okay? And you say that I don't, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Still, I wouldn't, Still, wouldn't you like this open for the possibility that someone who knows a lot about Islam may intervene? Sure, that's fun. First off, the Quran never says the earth is flat, but the Bible does so. Reconcile that first before spouting off in ignorance, explain that, then get back to me. What does spread out like a carpet mean to you? I agree that there are scriptures in the Bible that give you the feeling that the earth is flat also, but then so does the Quran with spread out like a carpet. Excuse me, but where does it say like a carpet? You keep saying that the closest thing is that the earth has been made a bed for us to take our rest. You keep saying that. The closest thing, though, is that the earth has been made like a bed that we take our rest in it. All you have to do is type into your web browser, spread out like a carpet, and it should take you to many verses of the Quran. You can believe spread out like a carpet means the earth is actually, quote, shaped like an ostrich egg, or round if you want, but others, like myself, will believe it means what it seems to mean in the Quran, flat earth being depicted. By the way, I'm not interested in what you think of the Quran or Bible, what the Quran or Bible says the shape of the earth is in. I'm far more interested in what African Americans, you, think of Quran 4:24, which infers that not only is slavery allowed, but so is having sex with, quote, quote, marriage, end quote, to your slave, right hand possess, women who are married, seeming to remove, or at least ease, African American gripe. That's all. So you're all over it when you imagine that in the Quran, but when it's the Bible seeming to say the earth is flat, all of a sudden you're not in concern with that type of thing. Also, number one, slavery is allowed in Islam under certain conditions. It's not inferred, actually, the reader, listener infers, the speaker, rather implies. It's clearly stated. 2, how is being able to lay with your slaves with consent, as I proved with the hadith, if you bother to read it, relate to the black American experience. Well, I say, I'm not concerned about what shape the earth is in the Bible or the Quran, but I was thinking it greatly something that the Quran might be changing to fit with modern science and taking away the notion that slavery and sex with the married slave girls was okay. Until Cyber Monkey set me straight, saying the Quran wasn't changing, meaning that slavery is still okay, and apparently so is sex with your married slave girls in Quran, as depicted in Quran 4:24, seemingly to remove African American gripe. Excuse me, what? We don't gripe at all, but the issue we take is that we were murdered, raped, hated for our color, tortured, and all around treated like filthy animals. Thus we take issue. But how is this the same to the Islamic order? Feed him what you eat. He dresses as you do. You treat him like a brother and give him the option to free himself. You can't strike or curse him. And furthermore, it's not race-based, but rather a function of war. As Islam clearly says, all races are equal. So how are they two comparable? I'm sure there are sayings in the Hadith that say to treat slaves well, but then you have Quran you have Quran, Surah 4, that's chapter 4, verse 24, and because you are allowed to have sex with a slave girl of yours, your right hand possessed, who is married, it seems it may not remove the gripe of African Americans for the time America had slavery, but at least ease it. How is it related when in Islam one can't even slap a slave? So the abuse U.S. slaves went through, according to Islam, is an atrocity, and we went over this. But you, for some reason, still claim that Islam somehow condones the racism and abuses that happened to American slaves. So in Islam, you couldn't slap your married slave girl, just have sex with her? Yes, correct. If she consents. Where does it say if she consents in Quran 4:24? How come married women are denied to you, but not married slave women? Quran 4:24 isn't talking about sex, it's talking about marriage. Read starting at verse 23. The quote, forbidden for you, unquote, is not about sex, but rather about marriage. Start at verse 23. Please pay attention to what you read. This is what I was talking about with you being very ignorant of clearly defined narratives and lines of thought in the Quran. You cut and paste without comprehension, and you bother to actually read all of Surah 4 and not just verse 24. You see marriage and not sex is the topic at hand. So you are saying, so what you're saying is that a slave girl can have two husbands? Or is Quran 4:24 saying it's okay to have adultery with your married slave girl? Still seems to remove, or at least ease, the gripe of African Americans for the time there was slavery in America. Because what if the non-Muslim husband of the slave girl doesn't want the Muslim slave master to have sex with his wife? But to answer your question as to why married women are forbidden from marriage, pay attention to the text. The legal burden of the slave is lightened. For instance, the punishment for crimes is halved. To free women crimes is halved. A free woman must file for divorce, and both sides must reach terms. With the slave, the burden is half. If she wishes to marry, she may. The one whose authority she is under is sufficient as a co-signer to void the previous marriage if she likes, of course, if she can maintain and apply for release. Where does it say all this legal jargon in Quran 4:24? You aren't out to key on me here, are you? Which must be honored in terms of release are to be reached if possible. And again, where does it say that in Quran 4:24? By the way, where does the husband of the slave girl come into play? How come he's being ignored? How come he has no say in this? Do you see how this removes, or at least eases, the gripe of African Americans for the time the U.S. had slavery? If not, how come? So basically, you will believe what you presuppose, even though you just acknowledge that one of the definitions of original Arabic word is egg-shaped. Also, the term like a carpet is nowhere to be found in the Arabic or of the text. It's a parenthetical dig. Do I believe what I presuppose? Hey, I'm just putting out in video what I've learned about Islam so far is all. Leaving up to smart Muslims here in comment form to possibly set me straight if I'm wrong in my observations. But with all the Islamic texts I gave you, you don't seem to have read or taken any of them into account. Example, you claim Islam condones and abuses what happened to U.S. slaves. I show the text and show even slapping slave is haram in Islam, so it could not be approved. So it could not prove what happened in the USA. But you keep making the same claim, ignoring the hadith. You keep doing the same thing. You make a claim saying, I'm leaving others to correct me. When you are corrected, you ignore it and make the same claim. So, what you're saying is, you couldn't slap your married slave girl, just have sex with her, right? And again, where does her husband stand in all this? You know, the one who isn't a Muslim.